I'd be too, if I were you. I know you scared, I'd be too, if I were you. You better bring your A game, bring your A game. You better bring your A game, bring your A game. You better bring your A game, bring your A game. You better bring your A game, You better bring your A game, bring your A game. You better bring your A game, You better bring your A game.
Hello, everyone. JJ Vikings here with a special guest, Minnesota Vikings on-air talent, Gabe Henderson. Welcome to the show, Gabe, and I'm very excited to have you on.
Dude, I like that intro you got, man. That got me hyped, getting ready for draft night and the offseason. But the pleasure is all mine, man. I'm glad you finally had we finally had the opportunity to do this, man. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I also wanted to thank you for back in last September for meeting me at the Friday Football's Feast and taking a picture with me, and just, that's part of the reason why being in Minnesota again finally, changed my life for the better. And I'm really happy that happened, because Minnesota is a very special place for me.
Nice, man. That was phenomenal to have you a part of the Friday Football Feast. I know, that's PA and Charch's show on Fridays and how lively it is. And I know we were trying to coordinate a time to get to meet you, at least for myself. And the fact that I saw you there that Friday, man, that meant the world. So glad to have this conversation and continue to be able to talk to you as we continue to move forward, man. It's a bright days right now for the team in purple.
Yeah, and it's an exciting time to be a Vikings fan because of the draft and because of all the things that's going on with the team, and a lot of the great free agency moves. And I've been hearing a lot about it. And now I want to get into some questions. So you've worked for a lot of teams, right? And a lot of well, not a lot of teams in general, but a lot of you worked in a lot of places. And I saw that you worked for the Washington, back when they were called the Washington Football Team, now called the Washington Commanders. And switching to Minnesota like that, when you first came to Minnesota, how did it first treat you, and how did you first like it there?
Well, I remember when I moved, it was June 25th of 2020. It was the middle of the pandemic. Everything was shut down. Of course, the world was kind of in unrest with everything going on with the George Floyd situation. And I knew that there was a plan and a purpose for what my job was to do here in Minnesota. And that was to bring this community together by talking sports and talking about their favorite team. And since then, man, my experience has only been positive. Every day continues to make me feel more and more like Minnesota is home, and being able to work for, the state's favorite team, even though it's the state of hockey, the state shuts down when the Vikings play, and to, hold up a little piece of that as far as, fans, the consumers listening to, some of the studies that I take serious on a day in, day out basis, man, I don't take that for granted. But the move here has been great. The people are great. The food has been good. It's been a really great transition moving from DC when I was working with the Washington Commanders. So excited to be here in Minnesota.
Yeah, we're really excited for you too. And speaking on DC, I took a trip there about 2 weeks ago, and awesome place. Got to see all the landmarks, good food courts at the mall, things like that, and stuff like that. It's just absolutely amazing place.
What was your favorite part of it?
That is a very hard question, considering the fact that I've been to so many places there. I'd say
we can come back to it. It's all good. If it's a lot. I mean, DC is such a big city, man. Like, there's so much going on, and the fact that, to your point of, you got the malls, you got the monuments, it's a walkable city. The food is good there. It's so many different people to run into. The energy, man. Like, you can't make that up. So yeah, DC is still home for me a little bit. I'm from North Carolina, but living in Virginia and DC for 8 years of my life, man, like whenever I hear someone say they visited DC, the first thing that comes to mind, and I'm like, dude, what was your favorite part? Like, did you go do this? Did you go do that? So I'm glad you enjoyed it, man. I'm glad you got to get out and just experience what DC is.
Yeah, I'm really excited that I got to experience that too. I like to travel throughout different parts of America and hopefully different parts of the world in the future.
For
I
sure, for
feel
sure.
like that'll be amazing. So I wanted to also ask you, what do you like most about your job with the Vikings?
The most rewarding part of my job with the Vikings is being able to share stories that a lot of people don't get an opportunity to hear, and being inside of the building on a daily basis and building relationships with the players and coaches. There are things shared there that won't be shared in press conferences and some of the media interviews. So being able to use my creativity and my skill set to be able to, I don't want to use the word well, I use the word exploit because exploit is still a good word, but to use my access to exploit some of their stories in a positive way, man, it's the best job in the world. And I don't take it for granted whenever I go into the building and I have the opportunity to share stories, not only to our Vikings fans, but to our country, man. Like this is entertainment. And I love it. If I could, take someone's mind off of their job or their whatever they're going through for 3 seconds or 5 seconds, I've done my job. That means you've done enough to find peace or find happiness or find joy outside of daily day-to-day job. So I really thrive on being able to share some of those stories and being able to get that out into the world.
Yeah, I really love that a lot. And I think it's really crazy that you moved to Minnesota when I was only 10 years old. Uh, I was still a littler Vikings fan, didn't know that much about, kind of the financial and logical side of football. I was just so into the game and so into the throwing, the tackling, who's our quarterback, who's not. But
Yeah.
2020 was kind of a crappy year with all that was going on, no fans in the stands, and just lots of weird stuff that was going on, unfortunately. And we actually have a question from one of our viewers
Okay.
named Shiesty 2.0. His question is, where did you start your journey and how did you get noticed?
Great question. Wow. I started my journey. Well, I tell people all the time, like I've known what I wanted to do since I was 5 years old. Like I knew that I wanted to be in the position that I am right now. I wouldn't say with the Vikings, but being on air talking about sports, the game of football in particular, since I was 5 years old. And I just worked along the way to get to that point. So I played college football at Liberty University in Virginia. They just played in the Fiesta Bowl this past year against the Oregon Ducks. We were up in that game. I won't go down a rabbit hole when it comes to my Flames, but once I got done playing, I trained for the league. I had a couple of workouts, a couple of tryouts, and ultimately I gained more of a passion from storytelling, the opportunity and the time spent building some of those um, building some of those relationships, that when the opportunity came for me to have opportunity to get a job after football, I was like, you know what? Football is great. I probably could be on at least a practice squad, but I really want to get started in my career. So I went back to Liberty after I graduated college, and I got my master's while working for their in-house sports network department. And some of the stories that I was able to tell and some of the skills that I was able to learn, man, is one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. I think the biggest jump for me was when I was getting my master's. I knew I still wanted to work in the NFL, and during that time, I was applying to jobs for over 3 years, and I still have every single denial letter from that 3 year span of jobs telling me no. I know for a fact it's over 215 denial letters since I had stopped playing football from teams or universities or wherever jobs that I had applied to, that I've used as motivation that got me to where I am today. And ultimately, after being told no over a handful of times with the Washington Commanders, I just kept being persistent and sending over my demo reel to the guy that was hiring for the position. And ultimately, after telling me no a few times, I sent him another email of my updated demo reel. And he was like, hey, we actually do have a job opening. It's a producer role, which I love being behind the camera. Also, I love telling stories behind the camera and being able to mesh the two. And that ultimately landed me with they were the Washington Redskins at the time. It landed me a job there. I worked there for 2.5 years. Kevin O'Connell was the offensive coordinator during those times when I was working for the Commanders, and ultimately ended up getting a job here, middle of the pandemic with the Minnesota Vikings. So I just learned how to just persist, and I think playing the game of football helped me be better when it came to working through some of those hard times and leaning on my teammates and my friends to, cheer me up and continue to push me forward to ultimately get noticed and ultimately be on this podcast with you, JJ.
Yeah, well, I can't even use words to explain how much you've inspired me so much. Being an out-of-state Vikings
Appreciate you.
fan, living in Massachusetts, I can remember the 2022 season, then the off-season heading into the 2023 season. I was so sad that I couldn't be in Minnesota to listen to you do your analysis. I'd always watch you, Tatum, Paul Allen, and Ben Lieber like every single day. But I was just so sad that I couldn't live in Minnesota and really experience the joy in person. And and I still want to go back. And all the things that you say about having a great connection with the Minnesota Vikings. I wish I could be working there in that facility right with you. Uh,
Man, one day, you never know. It might work out for you, man. I know you have a bright future, and I know a lot of people have told you that, but you really do have a bright future and a bright career ahead of you, man. So just keep pushing. Like at this point, like I just use my story as an opportunity to tell people that if you continue to work towards something that you want to get, you'll eventually get there. But it's about the process and not the destination. So continue to push, man. You're on the journey of getting whatever you want to accomplish in life, man. And I'm so happy for you, and I'm proud of you for being able to persist and be able to sit on this podcast and be able to hold a conversation, talk about your favorite team, be who you are as a person, and be unapologetically JJ. I think that's what drives people to whatever you do, your content, your personality. So, man, if you keep believing in being a Minnesota Viking and living in Minnesota one day, man, it will happen. I am a firm believer that that will be the case for you. It happened for me. I wanted to work in the NFL, and I got so many denial letters on the way. Like I had so many people tell me no, but I was persistent and I knew exactly what I wanted, and I continued to get to that point. And here we are today, and I'm gonna continue to build. It's not about, hey, I'm finally here. It's about I'm going to continue to work while I'm here. So hopefully that's a piece of advice for you, man. But look, you're on track. Like you are on track to get whatever you want to get in this life, man. Just stay focused.
I love that. I love that very much. I think that you getting all those denial letters, but then getting a way better job, like with the Vikings. I think that is a really, really important and big blessing from God. And I'm a firm believer
Absolutely.
in that too. And what I also wanted to ask was, what got you specifically into sports content and analysis, and just everything revolving around sports.
Dude, sports is like been my entire life. Like when I was a kid, like 5, 6 years old, like I would read the newspaper and I would read the sports section. Like you can ask my mom, like I would read the sports section every single day in the newspaper from when I was 5 until I got to college. And then I stopped when I got to college because I was playing college ball and it was so busy. But sports is my life. Like I feel like it's one of those things you love it or you hate it. And with my broadcasting degree, like I grew up watching the Stuart Scotts of the world, the David Aldridges of the world. Those guys inspire me to, I guess, figure out what my voice was going to be, and ultimately gave me confidence to continue to move forward. So, dude, I mean, like I said, I've known what I wanted to do since I was 5 years old. It was just more so trying to find the resources and the people that could help me get to where I am today. And I'm continuing to lean on those people. And it's a partnership, right? Like it's a friendship, like it's a relationship. Like we help each other out, and ultimately we're continue to stay where we are while continuing to grow and hopefully build our platforms as we do so.
Wow, that was also very inspirational. And what I do also want to mention is How do you feel about the draft coming up tomorrow? And to follow up with that, who do you think the Vikings should get specifically? My money is either on Jaden Daniels, but
Mm,
JJ McCarthy's looking a bit better right now. And
mm.
there's also Drake May. Or what well yeah, there's Drake May too. But how do you feel? Do you think we should stick and pick, or should we trade up, or should we how should we do it?
I think you shouldn't reach for a quarterback if he's going to be the fourth best quarterback in the draft. If he's not the number one quarterback on your board, then I think you should stick and pick where you are. I think you should go best player available because there's been reports that the Vikings have done extensive research on a handful of quarterbacks. And if a handful of, two or three of those quarterbacks are still going to be there at whatever pick that is, whether that's 11 or whether that's 23, I think you should stay there. But if you know that your guy is available after that second overall pick, I believe you should move up to do so. I personally am a fan of. I'm personally a fan of Drake May. I just think his arm strength, his arm versatility, the way he demands an offense. That's what Kevin O'Connell likes. He likes a quarterback that's just the guy, like the Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes esque. And I believe Drake May is that guy when it comes to throwing the ball around the field. I know people bring up the inconsistencies and the footwork in the pocket not being the greatest. Those are two things that could be coached, in my opinion. Being a former quarterback, being a former college quarterback, those are things that a coach can fix once he gets an opportunity to do so. It may take a red shirt year, but in my opinion, I think JJ McCarthy will be there for the Vikings if they want to trade up to get him. JJ McCarthy is another guy that I believe is going to be very good in the NFL. I think he has a high floor, which means, if he fails, it's not going to look as bad because he works harder than anybody on the team. And I think that's something that Kevin O'Connell loves also. My favorite quarterback in this draft, though, is Jaden Daniels, to your point. Like, I think Jaden is going to be a next level type of guy, can run the ball, throw the ball, leader, just understands the game of football, just comes so naturally for him. But if I'm being realistic here, and if the Vikings can't move up to that second overall pick, I believe they'll have the capital to acquire a guy in Drake May if that's the route that they want to go.
I believe so too. And I think that what you were saying about JJ McCarthy is that he can definitely bring a great attitude to his team. And on top of that, he seems to be able to fit Kevin O'Connell's system. And not only that, he can run, he can improvise and make plays, just like we saw Josh Dobbs do in weeks 9 and 10. Obviously in week 9, 66 yards rushing, a rushing touchdown, a passing touchdown, completing that 2-point conversion throw to Tristan Jackson in the end zone, facing heavy pressure. Then that huge run for a touchdown against the Saints, avoiding pressure, buying time, getting that nice block from Christian Darrisaw, then scrambling, leaping into the end zone, proving that he's the pastronaut, just continuing to do that. I think that's the guy that we like, the kind of guy that we want in this draft, because I believe that there is going to be some kind of way we could get McCarthy. I'm not sure right now, but I do think that if we do have the chance to stick and pick, go defense. Get any opportunity you can on the defense, because that's going to be a really good backup to our offense, because we're still learning, we're still new. Sam Darnold coming in, we're not exactly entirely set on offense, so I think that that'll be a really important. What's the word? Can't think of the word right now, but it'd be a really important decision to make, especially on defense, so that can back up our offense. And
Yeah.
back to JJ McCarthy, I think that if Kevin O'Connell, lets him run and doesn't just make him a pocket passer, I think that that'll be a very important skill set for him. But, Kevin O'Connell, he speaks very highly of JJ McCarthy, and I think JJ McCarthy is very willing to come to a team like this, throw to a guy like Justin Jefferson. Well, who doesn't want to throw to Justin Jefferson, So I think that this will be a great pickup, and JJ to JJ will come to life.
JJ. I love it. To your point, I do think defense should be a priority also, which is why I'm saying I don't think you should sell the kitchen sink to get the fourth best quarterback if he's the fourth best quarterback on your board. There's so many great defenders in this draft. I'm huge on Terrion Arnold, the defensive back from the University of Alabama. He reminds me of Xavier Howard to the T. They have the similar measurables, similar 40-yard dashes, just a similar build. Their college, like, it fits this Brian Flores scheme. And I've been around him a couple of times, and I've seen just the R and the presence about him. And as a DB or a cornerback, you have to have a presence about you and a swagger about you, because we know these wide receivers, they're divas, right? Like they want to be flashy, they want to be glitzy, and the defensive backs, you got to have the swag and the attitude to put those guys in their place. And Terrion Arnold is a guy that I really like. I mean, Liatu Latu, Byron Murphy II, Jerzon Newton. Like, there's so many defenders that could be available for the Vikings if they decide to stick and pick with that 11th overall and or the 23rd overall pick in the first night of the NFL draft.
I totally agree. And this is what I forgot to mention earlier. Back when you were saying that you loved football since you were 5 years old, that was the exact age that I started loving the Vikings.
Nice.
And the first ever Vikings game I watched was the Vikings-Cardinals game, and I saw Cordero Patterson return a kickoff for a touchdown. I can't remember if it was a kickoff or a punt return touchdown, but still a great play, an absolutely great play, and one that I'll always remember.
He's a legend. Cordero is a legend, man. I feel like now with the new league rules of the kickoff changing, he's going to be a guy that benefits from that immensely. Like, I believe Cordero Patterson could solidify himself as a Hall of Fame kick/punt returner based off of the new rules in this upcoming year's kickoff rules.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Now back to my questions. Did you have a favorite NFL team or sports team in general growing up?
I'm a diehard North Carolina Tar Heel fan. Like, everyone that knows me knows that when it comes to the Tar Heels, whether it's football or basketball, primarily basketball, I grew up a Florida State football fan. So, like, I don't really watch Carolina football. So when people talk about, I'm biased towards Drake May, I'm like, I didn't really watch too many of his games. I just watched the film and let that talk. But when it comes to just overall sporting teams, nobody can talk bad about my Tar Heels, man. And we don't mention the other school in North Carolina that's about 8 miles away from the University of North Carolina. We don't know what that school is. I think it starts with a D and ends with the E. So I don't know what the name of that school is, but Tar Heels, man. Like, I feel like when you're born in the state of North Carolina, you have to decide what your affiliate is. Is it the North Carolina Tar Heels? Is it NC State? Is it Wake Forest? Or is it that other school in Durham that ends in an E? I don't want to mention that name. So I grew up a Tar Heel fan since I was born.
Did you have any interest in the Panthers growing up, or not really?
Not really. They were kind of like the secondary team. Like, I was born before they became a team. So I had already, built up an allegiance, with college sports before the Panthers became, what the Panthers are. Like, I tell people all the time, if North Carolina, and I'll mention the school name now, but if North Carolina and Duke were playing in the national championship the same day that the Carolina Panthers were playing in the Super Bowl, people would be at the North Carolina Duke basketball game. Like, nobody would go to that Carolina Panthers game. So that's kind of the vibe and the energy when it comes to the state of North Carolina. It's a college state. You're in the South, so college sports always rule.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm glad to know that about the South. Another thing, how do you prepare before doing your analysis, your content? Like, how does your preparation really come into play?
Whoa, that's a loaded question, because there's so I feel like I'm so unorthodox in my planning. Like, one thing I do like to do is watch film. Like, I'll watch about 6 to 10 hours of film a week. And I usually let that dictate how I approach my planning. Like, I usually get an idea of vibe and field and player and scheme, and then I let that take me to my questions which ultimately helps my prep. So just from playing the game of football, I actually stole this from a coach in the NFL. He always says whenever he's watching, if let's say he just finished coaching a game and he's on the plane and he has to, analyze the tape first before, reporting back to the team the following day, giving his notes. He
Right.
always watches the game in its totality first to get a feel and the vibe of the game. And then he goes and watches it for a second time and breaks down the film. So I've kind of, stolen that from him. And I usually let that take me when it goes to, planning for future content and future episodes. So I always like to provide fans with a real authentic, fun feedback and analysis. And hopefully that continues to drive fans to some of the content that I like to do.
And I also love how knowledgeable you are in your videos. I remember after we beat the 49ers and shocked the world on Monday Night Football, your post-game analysis with Ben Lieber.
Yeah.
Ben Lieber, a guy that I admire a lot, a guy that I definitely want to meet. He's definitely on the to interview list.
Yeah.
He was so knowledgeable in that video, absolutely so knowledgeable. You were there with him, and my admiration for you guys is just so big, and will never go away. Will never go away. And
Appreciate
that's
that.
why it's a blessing to be talking with you right now.
Dude, I remember that game vividly. I remember that between the lines interview with Ben vividly, and just being able to just break down the film or break down what happened in real time with Ben. Like we were like two kids in the candy store just talking about, hey, this is a brand new team. Like if this is the Vikings team that's going to show up week in and week out, this is a playoff team. I still firmly believe, when healthy, last year's team was better than the 2021 Minnesota Vikings team. So KOC's second year team was better than KOC's first year, even though the records don't really show that. And Ben and I, that was something that we always talked about and something we discussed right before we recorded of, dude, is this the new look Vikings? Because if so, I'm all in. So yeah, that was a fun game, man. That was a really fun game.
It could have been if Kirk didn't get hurt. I definitely envision us making the playoffs if Kirk didn't get hurt.
Don't remind me. Don't remind me, man.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. I mean, I just remember that Packer game. I sit in between Paul Allen and Pete Burcich for home and away games. But road game, I remember that Green Bay Packers game going into it. We usually get it to the stadium about 3 hours prior, and we're, filling the energy out, filling the vibe out. Lambeau Field is by far my favorite field in the NFL, my favorite stadium. You just feel the history when you're there, and it's so indescribable. But it is one of the best sporting experiences in all of sports. But I remember that day where it was like something's going to happen today. I don't know what it is. And then we started, getting the lead early. Like everything's rolling our way. And then I remember Kirk Cousins went back for the drop back and slipped. He limped to the sideline. And I looked over at PA and I was like, PA, that doesn't look good. Like that doesn't look good at all. And ultimately, we saw the diagnosis of a torn Achilles, and just seeing, Kirk in the locker room after the game and how dejected the locker room was, even though we won that game. Just, man, you could hear a pin drop in that locker room after the game, just understanding what that meant for the rest of the season now that the starting quarterback, the identity of the team, wasn't there anymore. So, yeah. If Kirk was healthy last year, I believe we make a great round. But I'm happy for Kirk in Atlanta. I'm glad his recovery is going great. I know him personally, so it is one of those things where you just continue to root for him from afar.
That's a shame. I wanted to meet him. I wanted to meet him in purple, not red and black.
Yeah, good luck to him down in Atlanta. They got a lot going on there, and I personally think that's the worst division in all of football. So I think that benefits him well. He understands that he can get to the playoffs. It's an easier path versus going through Green Bay and Chicago now and Detroit, or the Cowboys, Eagles, and the Giants when he was in Washington. So I think his path is a little bit better, and I'm happy for him. But yeah, it's gonna look weird seeing whoever wears number 8 this upcoming season.
We'll get to see. We'll definitely get to see him and Baker Mayfield again going up against each other.
Yeah.
I think that Kirk will definitely get his revenge and hopefully get a win. The Falcons don't really struggle as much beating the Bucks after Tom Brady left the
Yeah.
Bucks. So that's definitely going to play a big factor as well. But what I wanted to ask you too is was there any struggle while you were on your way? Well, obviously you did tell me the struggle, but I still want to ask: was there any other struggle while you were on your way to get to where you are now and on the journey?
Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah, a lot. I know. I talked about the over 200 denial letters and just trying to figure out what to do because there were so many days where I just wanted to quit. But there were people in my corner basically helping me and pushing me on and forcing me to keep fighting the good fight because they saw something in me that I didn't see in myself at the time, and I just kept pushing. But I would say, man, I think the no's really forced me to be a better person. It forced me to look at myself in the mirror and get better. I looked at the no's as what can I do better to ultimately get a yes. So while some of those negative times were tough, I instead of pointing the finger at other people, I pointed it back at myself, basically saying, okay, what do I need to do to get better to ultimately get to where I need to go? And I think that's what ultimately propelled me to where I am today.
That is also something that's very inspirational. Kind of reminds me of the stuff that my mom tells me every day to keep me going when I get troubled with the fact that I don't live in Minnesota yet. I did used to, by the way. I was born and raised there for 7 years.
Wow. Wow. Dude, listen to your mom. Mom always knows best.
Yep, it's her job, and she loves that job so much. She loves supporting me, and I am forever grateful for everything she does for me. She's pretty much the reason why I was able to get on that great trip to Minnesota last year for the Week 1 game.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Dude, moms know best. My mom was just in town recently, and um, man, it's nothing like it. No matter how old you get, like mom will always be there for you, man. So she's still my number one fan. Like my dad is also, but my mom is it's different when mom is rooting for you. So man,
That's what
keep
my mom
listening to
said
her.
too.
Keep rooting for
Yeah, we definitely root for each other. And what I also wanted to ask you was, it's this last question: did you ever want to play football as kind of your career?
Yeah, that was football was my identity growing up. Like I was the number 3 quarterback in the state coming out of high school, 3-star recruit. Teams wanted me to change positions, but I was, stuck on playing quarterback. I got to Liberty, played quarterback my first 2.5 years, moved to receiver, had 2 really solid years my junior and senior year, and got an agent and went through the whole process of joining a team and going from there. And, that was my life. Like I wanted to play in the NFL. I firmly believe if I really wanted to and I didn't go with my plan B or plan 1A with broadcasting, I firmly believe I would still at least be on a practice squad. Like I firmly believe that, but my heart just wasn't in it. And I believe, going the broadcasting route ultimately helped me find who I was as a person and not have my identity solely in the sport of football. I tell people all the time, like, if football is your only way out, then you're not doing it right, man. Like right now, I'm in the process of hosting my first ever football camp back home, and with this football camp in North Carolina that I'm having this upcoming July, it's going to be an opportunity to show kids that, hey, yeah, football is great, but there's so many skills in the game of football that can translate to real life, and if you're able to identify those skills, that'll ultimately help you when it comes to setting yourself up for success in the future. So man, I'm glad football was a part of my life and was my life early on. But at the same time, football is just a part of me. It's not me. It's just what I like to do. And I'm glad I'm at the age and I have the wisdom now to understand that, because it was a lonely road going down the path of just saying football is the only thing I got. And if football doesn't work out, I'm not a human being anymore. So yeah, I know for a fact I could be playing in the league. Like I know for a fact, but I tell people all the time, like I made the best decision for myself, and for my family and everyone that's been a part of my journey along the way. As I sit right here and talk to you, JJ.
Yeah, this talking with you is also going to be a great part of my journey too. And I also wanted to mention that I used to read the newspaper too, like just the sports part of it,
Yeah,
from like 2017 to 2020.
yeah,
So when I was 7 to 10 years old, I always read the newspaper. Then I started watching this YouTube channel called Purple FTW, and then I also then when I started my own channel, I didn't really watch that other one anymore, considering how busy I was with my own stuff.
yeah,
And I still go there from time to time, just very, very, very little now.
yep,
But what I do think is overall, I feel so grateful to be a Vikings fan, so grateful to be talking with you, and so grateful to be inspired by you. And there are lots of players, I can tell you, there are lots of players, coaches, staff, other analysts in that facility that I really want to meet still. Your that camp you're hosting sounds really interesting too, you know, and I love to support it in any way that I can too, because
appreciate you.
I love what you do, and I know that you love what I do too,
Yeah,
and I also appreciate that as well.
yeah.
And I also wanted to say that it was a blessing to have you on.
Dude, the pleasure is all mine, man. I'm so glad this was able to work out. If you need me on again in the future, man, I'm happy to join. Like, I'm excited to see how your career continues to flourish, man, and whatever I can do to help you get to where you need to go. Like, I'm here for you, especially as someone who's ascending, African American, someone who has to deal with struggles that other people don't have to deal with, man. Like, whatever I can do to tear down some of those roadblocks for you and put you in the right position. As long as you want to work and as long as you want to get there and as long as you got that drive, man, I'm here for you, man. I will. I don't say that to everybody, but I love your work ethic. I love your drive, man. Meeting your parents that day, like you got really good parents. You got really good people behind you. So I would say along your journey, just continue to listen to them, use them as resources, and they will never tell you anything that is going to hurt you. Even if you don't want to hear it, they won't hurt you, man. Like I'm a father now, and I have a daughter, and she's one of those. She's in a position now where she's old enough to like starting to figure out like, okay, like I got free will to do this and that. I will never hurt my daughter, and I know for you, your parents will never hurt you. So don't ever look at them as someone that's a hindrance to your success because they are your biggest cheerleaders. When push comes to shove, and you have a bad day and everybody's against you and you just feel like the world is coming down on you and you're just depressed or down, is a certain group of people that's going to be there for you, and that's one, your family, but more importantly your parents. So always listen to them and use that as a resource for you going forward, because that's all that matters at the end of the day is family.
I absolutely agree, and there have definitely been lots of days where I felt down and felt like, this was never going to happen and that I can
Yeah,
never accomplish my dreams. But then I snap out of it and come back to the fact that there's still plenty of time, and I have plenty of resources,
yeah,
plenty of love, plenty of energy, and plenty of chances to be able to get to where I want to go. And part of those opportunities is sitting right here talking with you. And again, I can't express how much you inspire me, and I wanted to thank you so much for coming on, and for all the viewers for watching. Almost 400 viewers right now,
oh
so
wow,
lots of them lined up right here to talk to watch us talk, and I'm grateful for too. I actually also have a gratitude journal where I keep note of what I'm grateful for the day. I think that gratitude is a really important thing that can lead you to the highest altitude, and a lot can be given to you when you're a grateful and humble person.
for sure, man, and stay humble. I think that's the number one thing. No matter what you get, just stay humble. Like as quickly as you got it, or as hard as you work for it, it can be taken away from you in a snap of a finger. So as long as you got that in perspective, man, everything's going to be all right. Like JJ, you're going to be fine, man. Like I can't wait to see what 5 to 10 years looks like for you as you continue to grow along your journey, man. And along that journey, I'm here. I'm a resource. I know you got a lot of people in your corner, but dude, you got me too. Like I've been where you're going I've been there. Like I've done that. I mean, we've got a similar upbringing, similar background, similar trajectory, and whatever I can do to get you where you need to go, man, I am more than happy to help you. So hit me up anytime, write me anytime, like whatever you got, man. I'm a huge fan of your show, so I'll be tuned in and tapped into what you got going on, also, man.
Yeah, thank you so much. Still waiting for
Absolutely.
that follow on Twitter so I can DM you.
I got
So
you. I got you.
yeah, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
And one of the things that I love is to interview you in person at TCO. That'd be the best thing ever.
Let's
And
make it happen. Let's try to
yeah,
make something work. If you come up here
absolutely.
this year, we'll try to figure something out.
Thank you so much. And
For sure.
for all of you viewers, thank you guys so much for watching. This is Gabe Henderson, Vikings on Air Talent, and I wanted to thank you again for coming on. Skol Vikes.
Appreciate you, Jay.